now are we live?
I think we're live.
We think we're live? All right, so hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to Sam Sneed's House of Whiskey, our live whiskey presentation. I am Sam. This is the illustrious Nigel Kelly, Whiskey Baron.
Cure.
Now, I'll say it instead of him. We have an unwilling photographer. Our producer has ditched us. Tim's down in Nelson. Rubette couldn't make it. And so we have poor Nigel's daughter is on. She's our filmographer today. So if there's any issues.
Believe how hard we had to negotiate to
She was one blood money from Nigel.
Anyway.
$1 an hour. That's brutal. That's brutal.
We're going to do a couple of cool whiskeys today. We're going to do the Dalwhinnie, and then we're also going to do the Enoch from the Knockdhu distillery. So,
why are we doing these whiskeys?
Well, because they're great tasting whiskeys. We actually visited Dalwhinnie just recently, and then Enoch closed when in kind of late 80s, early 90s, and then reopened.
83.
Okay, so it was another of the 83 babies, and closed. And the reason why it's called Enoch now is the distillery is called Knockdhu, but there's another distillery which you may have heard of called Knockandhu. And so they came to a gentleman's agreement when they reopened it because there was a little bit of confusion. So they called it Enoch as in Enoch. And they're making good spirit. So, a trivia question for you today, Sam. What links these two distilleries? What is the common thing between these two distilleries?
Common denominator? Same owners?
No.
Before previous? One's Speyside, one's Highlands, Horse and Traps. Are you going to say Wormtub?
I am.
But
Yeah.
there's a but in there. There's a but in there. So they both do have worm tubs, and you hear Nigel and I bang on about worm tubbing, which is how as the spirit is cooled, it'll come in, looks like a bit of a snake inside a big giant tub. And actually, Dalwhinnie's, they're outside. They've got two large in a pine, looks like a big giant pine barrel, actually. Yep. Pretty cool looking. But which one should we do first? What do you think?
Well, I was just looking at that. So the Enoch is 40% and the Dalwhinnie is 43%. But the thing is with that I find quite fascinating about these is one of the things with Dalwhinnie is that they actually stopped using the worm tubs back in
86, 95.
Yeah, and then in 1995, because they had changed the spirit so much, they went back to the worm tubs. Now, normally worm tubs give you a bigger, meatier style of whiskey. These two whiskies belie that comment. Which is what I found quite fascinating. Because I knew about Dalwhinnie, but I wasn't sure about Knockdhu being a worm tub.
Well, when I read that a while back, it made me think, all right, they have said that they made the change at Dalwhinnie, which it's all fact, they made the change in 1986. And they went from a worm tub to a shell and tube, which is a shell and tube, imagine a torpedo with a whole bunch of copper tubes inside. And the spirit will go down, back, and forth. No, the spirit goes on the outside. The water's in the tub.
So
the water's in the tube.
It's one long piece of copper like that, and creating this cold as the warm air, as the warm vapor hits it, it turns into liquid.
Yeah. So it's just a little bit different than your worm tubs. All right. So they did this in 1986, and they re-changed back in 1985. So
which is a long time.
No, I think it's my opinion. It's 9 years. How are you going to really tell? It's been in the barrel because Dalwhinnie's 15.
Okay, so I talked about this just recently. For all we bang on about our friends at the Death Star, aka Diageo, and they have to send their samples off, their new make samples off to the lab every week. And they picked up pretty quickly when somebody at Kleinleach cleaned those pipes, which I believe gives it the wax in it. They picked up on that pretty quickly. I would have thought that somebody tasting the new spirit, even after 3 years, would have gone, guys,
something's not right.
Something's different here. We're actually getting some different.
So after 9 years of checking, they're going, it's not changing, it's still not right. We got to go back.
Yeah, so I find that fascinating.
So all right, so they stopped doing this in 1995. So 2005, 2010, about the time the Dalwhinnie 15s have been rolling out, 2010 to now, the spirit would have been quite a bit different because we would have been drinking that they at the time that they had the shell and tube condensers.
Interesting. Anyway, we actually poured the Enoch.
Yeah, we did. Well, I did.
So because our camera woman is so unwilling, I'm going to bring the whiskey to the camera today, and you can see that beautiful light colour. Now, one of the great things, see, it's an action show today. It's all going on here.
Up and down. Our poor camera woman.
Well, legally, she's not even allowed to be in here, is she?
No, she.
Oh no, she is. I'm here, so I'm
calling you an
Parental
adult
guidance.
is one thing. We'll have to go to the producer and see the camera's going the wrong way for news. Anyway.
Yeah, anyway, so one of the things I love about the Enoch is that they've done some different styles, but this again is one of those great, and it sounds bad when I say an entry-level whiskey, but it's a whiskey you can give to anyone because it's got that lightness, that softness.
Entry level, that's a fair assessment. It's not a knock on anything.
It doesn't demand too much of the palate, yet it's got some lovely flavours. The one thing that I would take back on it is the fact that this is 40%. Now, the Peter Arkels they did, were they not?
46.
Well, 46, and I really like those. So Peter Arkels, a pretty famous artist, he did some very cool pen and ink drawings as the labels in the Peter Arkels series. And what was he, like 2 or 3 of those? Or was there more?
4 or 5. Yeah, it was a few.
They're actually
good
they're
whiskeys.
actually valuable.
Well, a knock, hell, they've got a great little range, the 12 to 18. I'm actually missing the 22. Up top there, you got the 1975. Now, we tried that whiskey, and that's actually a beautiful, beautiful whiskey, in 1975, a knock. Lovely, lovely whiskey. But the beautiful thing about a knock, it's like some of the other Benriach kind of like, in that they do sherry style, they'll do a little peated whiskeys, they'll do American oak bourbon style whiskeys. And again, we say bourbon style, it just means the whiskey's been matured only in American oak barrels. And that was the whole theme of today. Both of these whiskeys has been matured only in American oak barrels that had bourbon in them. So I'm expecting some vanillas, and
Yep.
they look like what they taste like. But look at the color difference there. More of a straw golden. This has got a little bit of amber in it.
So Dalwhinnie's obviously further up the country in the Highlands. Where
It's in the Highlands, bloody.
Dalwhinnie's actually I think the highest distillery, and they've still got that.
Used to be until Brayville came along.
Okay, but
The Brays, the Glenlivet, or however.
they still have that a weather station up there where they take all the readings from
Every single day.
every single day.
And the average temperature at Dalwhinnie Distillery,
I stopped listening to that.
6 degrees.
Oh wow, that was actually, and I have to say, for a stock standard tour that we went on at Dalwhinnie, I still enjoyed it, and I liked the tasting afterwards. We got to try some.
We did have a good taste. You can look me in the eye and say you enjoyed that tour.
Well, no, because it was factory. They're used to just getting people in and going chunk, chunk, chunk. The issue is the people that we were with on that tour, there were clearly some of them didn't want to be there. But anyway, we keep talking about Dalwhinnie, and we're talking about Anna.
Yeah.
Have you been to Knocked?
I have not been. I have not been to this distillery. No, I've not. Which is actually kind of sad. I need to work on that.
But again, so I just had that
So
smell of it. There's that light kind of lifted heather, honey.
Definitely, heather's a lot of heather, which is kind of typical of a Speyside Highland malt that's matured in American
But
oak.
on the nose, it says there's going to be some sweetness there. It's going to be lovely and easy to drink. And
Bit of candy, hard candy.
Actually, that candy, that's a good call. Almost like a lemon sherbety sort of thing.
But it's an easy enough nose, and you accidentally, when you said it's an introduction, you don't have to apologize for that. I mean, hell, what's
So
happening?
I'm just
What
laughing
I miss?
at the camera woman's face. It couldn't be less enthusiastic.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, he's going to get tortured for this tonight, by the way.
It's gonna
gonna
cost me
him
a
a dinner,
fortune.
a pizza, a movie. But it is. And when you say introductory whiskey, when people come in, they're like, look, I've started my whiskey journey. And something like this, the reason to quantify it, so to speak, is it's not going to put anyone off. And if you can't drink a whiskey like this, then
whiskey's not
maybe
gonna be
you're going
for you.
down the wrong road.
That's actually a really good point. And I think, again, this would be a great whiskey for whether it be a stag do or a mixed group of people, because there's enough oomph to it for most people to, you rock up to a place and somebody's pulled out this whiskey, you're going to happily drink this. It's not challenging the palate too much, but there is something about it. It's a lovely whiskey.
If I say it punches above its weight, is that...
Well, I think if I tasted this blind, I would pick it higher than 40%.
I don't know if this is because there's a bit of spice in there. You don't pick up the spice so much on the nose.
No.
It doesn't jump the olfactors up, but there's definitely a bit of spice on the palate and even on the sides of my cheeks here.
Yeah.
It's quite lit up, but it
But
feels like it's...
You know what we haven't had? We didn't have our customary beer.
We
before
didn't
start,
have...
so we were like,
Well, Daryl and I did cheat, and we
okay.
did open up
So
the
it's just
hammer.
me. Okay.
Sorry, mate. You were late. But...
So lovely lifted heather, that honey, that lemon sherbet.
delicate sweetness.
And there is I was just about to say delicate. I find this, again, a really easy drink. It'll be interesting to see what happens to it, however, we add some water to it.
And we always do add water, so I guess we kind of have to stick to that theme. But I'm
If our
afraid.
camerawoman just jumps up and just comes in and just has a look close in, up in their spirit, just to
And
Sam.
the look on her fat scowl. That's
That
it.
Sam drops that in, just see what happens. Do we get? See, now there's still some oiliness in there. I'm quite impressed with that. Thank you, camera lady.
All right, so we'll. Yeah, the less close-ups you want to do of him, typically the better. This is,
Now
we-
have
what have we
explain
done?
that. So
What
that's removed an awful lot off the nose. Haven't you put in 3 drops?
yeah, see, it's damp, almost flat.
Yeah, it's.
And see, that's why we argue, and we are not in the minority when it comes to that, I almost think they should change the law to 43%. It's about as, how many 40% whiskeys do you go, damn, it's really
Well,
good?
In the current climate where you've got all these people howling that that alcohol is the greatest evil ever visited upon man. It gets charged by the latest National Geographic out. It's got the word booze across the front of it, and basically what the contention is
Nah.
is that for a lot of time we've talked about beer and wine and whiskey happening as residue of making other things. So
Yes.
whereas their contention is they have evidence that we actually started making booze first, and civilizations grew up where the best grasses and the best barley and things grew because that's what they could do. The water that they were drinking actually poisoned them, and they started drinking booze. That's where communities actually started. So that's what booze is part
I
of.
mean, yeah, I'm 63 years old, and look how good I look. I mean, if every 63-year-old man looked as good as me, good on him.
Yeah. Okay.
How many people actually add years onto their age? Not too many. Anyway, so the water for me, it's very creamy, but it's like a liqueur.
Yeah, funny you say that. I'm thinking along the same lines when I was working for Chivas. There's very Lock and Aura type thing going on there.
Actually, very Lock and Aura-esque. What was Lock and Aura? 32, 27?
Good point.
32.
35. Darren Hosey, you watching? 35% Lock and Aura?
I don't think it's that much. But
Anyway.
the water definitely.
That's not a whiskey that needs water. However, worth doing in a tasting situation.
And as we always have to do, keep in mind, it's you and I do drink a lot of whiskey.
No, we taste. We're
But an average puncher could do that, and they could go over the moon like, God, that's just beautiful. It doesn't even taste like whiskey.
Well, one of the things, you can imagine a bunch of guys and sitting around drinking going, this is great because it's very easy to drink, it's not demanding too much, yet there's still lots of flavour there, it's soft, it's round, it's a great whiskey. And I mean,
Round?
Yeah, in terms of like, that,
just
kind
had
of,
to say.
that kind of
Okay.
mouthfeel, dingus. We're allowed to say that on the air,
That's got to be a word that's not allowed on the air.
So Dart's going to get Dalwhinnie tonight?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Darth, I don't know if everybody out there in TV land understands that Darth's dram sometimes gets shared with our producer. Our producer is maybe not quite old enough, so it's up to Dad. Well,
He's shaking his head.
poor little thing. This is what it feels like to get thrown in the bus, boys and girls. Well,
So
Darth,
an extra 3 years, and I didn't notice it in the bottle, but the Dalwhinnie actually looks considerably darker.
You
than
think?
It's in the glass, yeah. I mean, it looks like it's had a bit of water to it, but
yeah, but not, it does. It's a little more gold.
Yeah.
I wonder what's. That's kind of odd, eh? Because clear in the bottle, it definitely looks. That's kind of odd. But anyway, so Dalwhinnie. But interestingly enough, this whiskey that we're drinking right now is the reason I got into this industry. That little whiskey, and it's a bit of a long story. I won't bore everybody with it, but for a lot of you that know me out there, you understand my story with this whiskey, and it's always been a favorite. I'll taste this whiskey till my dying breath. It's a very, very easy whiskey to drink. There's just a little bit of smoke, not quite as much as Glenfarclas. Not saying Glenfarclas has a lot of smoke or peat or anything, but they still use a bit of peat to dry their malted barley, just a bit. So there's just a little underlying hint of smoke with Dalwhinnie.
so sorry, Dalwhinnie should be part of the flora and fauna.
Well, it could have been. They weren't.
They weren't at that
They were
time.
not.
Okay.
No, they're part of the classic malts.
Yeah, well, that was why I was suddenly thinking out of
And
that.
none of the classic malts were. Actually, that's a lie too, because Kalila is. But Kalila wasn't the original.
Okay,
classic
no, well,
malt.
that's why it wasn't. It wouldn't be in the flora and fauna. Okay, sorry. So on the nose,
Now, see, I get a lot more honey.
Yeah.
There's much more honey here than here.
Well, Dalwhinnie are quite interesting in that they have some of the largest pot stills in terms of capacity.
Big fat, yes, fat little rascals, like fat, like if you remember at Boonhaven,
Yep.
those big fat monsters. Same thing, not as near as high of a neck. I think our producer's going to sleep.
Yeah, but very, very cold up there, and it is often said that the best whiskey is made when it's cold, and it's
And that's
always
their
cold.
advantage.
You know, and so Dalwhinnie, it's like 1,100 feet above sea level.
Yeah, I'd say it's 1186 or something quirky, but yeah.
And I
that's about
remember
right.
going up there, it got colder and
We
colder
stepped out of
and
the
colder.
car and it was
Yeah.
not warm. But at least it wasn't windy because the wind can just scream up there. It kind of sits on the top of this knoll.
I was getting over my food poisoning. I was actually just starting to come right then.
Yeah, it's tried to kill him in Pitlochry. Almost succeeded. But see, it's got a nice little the little yellow hard candies, butterscotch, a wee bit of butterscotch in there.
See, straight away there's and this is not to denigrate Enoch. I mean, we're just talking about different whiskies. There seems to be more to that. Now, is that just because it's got an extra 3% alcohol, or is it an extra 3 years in the barrel?
I think a little, maybe a lot of both, because 3 years, keep in mind, 12 to 15, that's big. It's not the difference between 21 and 24. 12 to 15, younger whiskeys like that, that's a big aging bracket. So there is definitely going to be some softening here.
I suppose what
And
I'm
they
seeing-
quite heavily char their barrels as well.
Oh, okay, so extra 20%, I suppose, if you look at it like that. But Dalwhinnie is one of those, again, whiskies that I would recommend just about for everyone to have at some stage as you move through your whiskey drinking career. And it's, again, another whiskey you can bring out and just about give to anyone because there is that beautiful sweetness. There's enough depth and body to it. I'll use the word roundness again.
But it's got just that lingering little bit of smoke. You don't pick the smoke up. Well,
So I was going to ask about that. Where does that come from? Is that from the charred barrels that they use? Because
that is, but they do. Not their own, but there's still a bit of peated malt. I'd say like 4 to 6 ppm parts per million. How they measure? It's very, very mild. It's less than Glenfarclas, but you don't pick it up so much on the nose, but definitely on the palate. It's just barely
So
there.
you're saying they actually use some peated malt in there?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's news to me. Interesting. I'll be checking that out later on.
Yep, Dalwhinnie. It used to be back in the day. Like if you try some Dalwhinnie from maybe the 70s or something, you'll find it to be a little bit more like
So smell that against
that 73 that they released was. Oh yes, it complete. This is much more perfumey.
Yep.
The Enoch, that is, compared to the Dalwhinnie. Boy, you really get, man. But I know what I was going to say. Tasting them side by side like that, I still feel like this was a bit punchier.
But is that, again, is that because the alcohol's kind of been exposed because it's down at 40% as opposed to 46%? Well, I have to assume that's been chill filtered to get it to 40%?
Boy, look at that.
But there's colour to it, and there was oiliness.
Well,
Not as
it
much
is
as
a
that.
Diageo product. Yeah, you kind of have to assume it's chill filtered, right?
I mean, 43%, you're at that point.
do you or don't you? Me and my blind eyes.
I'd love to see that slightly chilled, like if it was cold, because you'd see that whiskey haze, and that would prove it or not. But anyway, just conjecture. We like to conject.
Nose any different?
Again, it's softened it off because you're probably taking it down now to that 40%.
41.
But not unpleasant. It hasn't taken away near as much as what the Enoch did with the water to it.
You know,
You don't have to put your hand up to ask questions. You just jump right in there.
I've just discovered, not justly, I think it's the first time we've said it, but whiskeys between 46 and 50, when you put water in there, you feel it open it up.
It opens up. Yeah.
And Lloyd, I know poor Lloyd Thomas, he does hate that and he insists that's not possible, but Lloyd Thomas is wrong. But when it's this low of alcohol, 40 to 43, it doesn't open it up, it just deadens it.
It dampens it down.
It's just kind of like, eh.
So
And again, this is all opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Just some people would think we're absolutely bonkers. It's like,
I kind of see it as like it's like a fire. You know, when the fire is low and you put a big piece of wood on it, sometimes you can actually kill the fire.
you don't have anything under it.
Yeah. So you put put the wood on a bigger fire, then it catches and burns brighter and there's a little bit more to it. And I think that's what kind of happens here.
Kind of like me. Bigger piece of wood, running brighter.
Okay. There's always an awkward
Camera lady
moment
agrees with that.
every day.
Yeah, now see that didn't. It's changed it, but it's not killed it.
No, it
it's
hasn't
still.
killed it.
It's actually a nice flavor. And again, normal puncher, adding a touch of water to that, they'd probably be very, very pleased.
I think you'd be very pleased with both these whiskies. And again, worth reiterating, every whiskey we try, we will try neat, and then we'll try with a little bit of water. Just
Very
because you're gonna-
creamy.
you're gonna see the-
Much more creamy than the knock. The knock's a little bit more. Punch is not the right word. It's got more of an edge to it.
That grassy, freshly mown hay comes out a little bit more with the water on there as well.
But that's actually quite nice. You'd be hard pressed to not get a non-whiskey person drinking that. If you can't drink those two whiskeys, I don't think
Whiskey's
maybe you
not
need
for you,
to stick to your, sadly enough,
Rather
tragic
than-
vodka or something like that.
Not there's anything wrong with that stuff.
Yeah, there's pretty much a lot wrong with vodka.
Anyway, before we kill our camera woman with boredom,
She's not.
so a couple of things worth checking out. Check out Mark Gillespie's Whiskey Cast about what's going on over at Nant in Australia, about the barrels that have been filled with nothing but air.
Worth a read. You know, it puts a blight on our industry. You know, and for all the collectors,
But you know what I love about it is that the whole industry has been built on things and skullduggery. I mean, you have a look at the Patterson crisis.
But it's whiskey.
But it's whiskey. But
Rum
it's all-
running. It's the whole history.
all
and
of
now
these are-
Nant's a part of that
Yeah,
tragic
exactly.
history.
Oh, it's a great story. It's the best thing to come out of Australia for ages. And the other one is the Exchequer in Great Britain, basically putting the taxes up, which will mean there will be a considerable price hike in Scotch if that goes through.
And what happens with that is places that, the bond warehouses in Scotland, or in Holland and Germany, that much better on prices for, people that are paralleling, or, you be able to get things even cheaper.
But the other thing, and this is the point that I made in our Facebook post, is that it will actually open the market up for more people to go, you know what, maybe I will go and have a look at Japan, Taiwan, India, maybe not so much Australia, but look at those whiskies out of America, from other places, Mackmyre in Sweden.
Yeah,
because if
alcohol
Scotch
tax in
becomes
America.
prohibitive, does it make it kind of the thing that only the cool people drink, or do people actually start going, you know what, I'll actually go and try some of the stuff over here?
Well, in our industry, we've gotten way off the subject, but we're just kind of just a quick little history. But it's all ebbs and flows, and I think we've just been enjoying this massive. We've kind of the bell curve. We've been riding it for a little while, and all these distilleries that are getting built. Over 20 distilleries that are online, waiting to open up in Scotland as we speak.
And there's more. I just read today that 3.8 million yen was raised for a new distillery in Japan. So publicly funded. Just they put basically a Kickstarter out there and got 3.8 million yen. So they're going to start a new distillery. So there's a heap of distilleries coming online. I mean, we know there's one here in New Zealand. There's a whole bunch of them in Tasmania. We talk about all the ones opening in Ireland. There's another 12 or 13 slated for Ireland.
Yep.
There's a number in Scotland.
And in America, they're popping up every year.
Did I mention Colorado, where there's already 72 craft distilleries?
I was curious if we could.
But I mean,
times have I mentioned
I
Montana
use
on this
that
show?
as one state. How many other places, in Indiana and Kentucky, how many others are going to be
Pennsylvania.
opening up?
Yeah.
And they're making good products, so hopefully the Scotch whisky industry isn't shooting itself.
And before we close, we'll have to mention the New Zealand Whiskey Show. The tickets are up online. You guys go on there and just Google New Zealand Whiskey Show.
What are we at? May 12th?
May 12, May 13, May 14, the big dinner at the Langham with the stars, the big boys from the distilleries that Friday night.
So
The
that's
12th.
May the 12th. May 13th is the main show.
2 shows, 12 to 4, 5 to 9, so you can decide which ticket you'd like to buy. And then on Sunday, our big master classes, and we've got some huge, big names master classes. We've done you guys from Laws are coming in from Colorado, so if you hadn't gotten too much of Colorado with this one talking, we've got even more. Graham from Tomatin, the distillery of the year, Cavlan, the crew at Cavlan, so it just goes on and on and on. So jump in there, tickets online.
Any questions, comments, fantastic. And again, thank you to my lovely daughter.
Call our producer.
Wonderful camera woman. It's going to cost me a fortune tonight. Probably chicken and waffles for dinner or something down at Orleans.
Now she's smiling. There we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, until next week, from myself and Sam, launch it.
And we forgot to mention that we were drinking Rubet's whiskey.
Oh, yeah. Well, it never turn up as whiskey gets drunk. Yeah. And are we clear? No, we're still sitting here.
That's right. So Rubet, that's what happens when you don't come. See, Rebecca, you missed that.